Well, South Australia's Sheffield Shield campaign draws to an end this weekend with its match against Tasmania. But it isn't the only thing coming to an end. It's the last time the old grandstands on the western side of the ground will be used before being demolished as part of a $90 million makeover. Mike Sexton reports.
It's a modest farewell to the grandest of stands. The match between South Australia and Tasmania is the last being played in front of the stands on the western side of the Adelaide Oval. Already work has begun on a glittering $90 million redevelopment to bring 21st century facilities and increased capacity to the ground.
The fact of the matter is that Adelaide Oval is now becoming uncompetitive with other major sporting venues in Australia. And if we're going to continue to try and win the very best of sport for South Australia and the city of Adelaide, then we have to be competitive and we have to improve our facilities and we have to grow our capacity.
When it was built in 1882, the George Giffen stand was a state-of-the-art facility, so members could enjoy intercolonial matches in comfort. In the 1920s, it was bookended by the Mostyn Evan and Edwin Smith stands, just in time to host the tens of thousands who poured through the gates to see the Don and the dramatic bodyline test of 1933. Since the days when George Giffen himself was batting and bowling, cricketers have had the best seats in the house. Their heroics are recorded on the walls of their inner sanctum, the change room that lies behind the viewing lounge.
I can remember walking into the dressing rooms just up here, and everyone had their spot and there was an empty locker. We're looking at lockers that are sort of pre-World War II, so they're pretty ancient in their way. But Phil Riding said, well, now son, you can have that one.
Ken Horsnell was picked for South Australia by Sir Donald Bradman himself after he saw him play for East Torrens in 1953. The left-arm quick soon made headlines with a 12-wicket haul against Victoria, but that didn't stop him getting some advice from critics in the members' stand.
Anyone can be an expert sitting back, so, oh, he should have done this, he should have done that, he shouldn't have bowled that, etc. If you follow what I mean, I know you do. Everyone's an expert, but the only expert at the time was when you're put on the spot and have to do what you're asked to do.
Ken Horsnell played in a colourful era with the likes of Pancho Ridings, Gil Langley and Neil Dancy. But it was the charismatic captain Les Favell he best remembers for encouraging his side to play entertaining, aggressive cricket, and in doing so, establishing a South Australian tradition for flair.
Les did leave a legacy, and he did pass it on through Chappell, through Ian Chappell, and then of course on to Greg Chappell and through to David Hooks and all sorts of other people, had the Favell enthusiasm, and I think that's the best way to describe it.
Webb flashes in to add another goal for Norths.
But it wasn't only the summer game that packed them in. With cricket controlling the ground, there's always been a certain upstairs-downstairs feel to the grandstand. While the cricketers enjoyed modern facilities above, footballers were out the back, housed in cramped, liniment-stained change rooms from which the players had to weave their way through the fans and onto the field.
They were just change rooms, and that's about all you could say for them. They weren't good at all.
Playing for West Adelaide in the 1940s and 50s, Brian Fasey knew the Adelaide Oval well and is responsible for a certain modification. Just before half-time in the 1954 grand final, the defender flattened Port Adelaide's Dave Boyd, sparking a predictable response from the Magpies. But it was when the Bloods tried to return to their change room, through the crowd, that things got really ugly.
And one of our trainers got punched in the face by somebody and knocked one of his teeth out, and we just couldn't get through. So finally their trainers forced their way through, and there were punches thrown and shuffles, and that was awful. So by the time we got back to our room, it occupied 5 or 10 minutes of our half-time. So it was very unsettling for all the players.
Without a proper break to freshen up, the players had to return to the field another way. 55 years later, Brian Fasey still believes it cost his club the flag.
There's no doubt about it. I think most people, we were playing much better than Port Adelaide at the time. We were in front and we were keeping nicely and trying to keep them contained. And after we came back, after that half-time spell, They put on, 2 or 3 quick goals till we settled down again, and then from then on it was a slugfest.
Glenelg gone to Adelaide Oval for South Australia's National Football League's grand final.
As a result, a tunnel with a protective cage was built so future generations of players could come and go in safety. But eventually the archaic facilities were too much for the SANFL, who took their ball and went to Westlakes, where they built Football Park. There are many who still dream that one day big football will again be played at Adelaide Oval.
If there was to be another AFL team in South Australia, then hopefully they would consider locating themselves at this ground, but at the moment there are no plans along those lines.
So after stumps this weekend, it's farewell to the Iron Lace and the Ivy and the antique cooling system. The prettiest test ground in the world is ready for its makeover.
It's sad, but it's good. It's a bittersweet, if I may say. There have been so many memories of so many great players who've come through the portals and strode out to the wicket. And that's been wonderful. But in the overall event, if you don't, you'll be left behind.
I'm not a bit nostalgic about it. They could knock the whole thing down as far as I'm concerned.